Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris.
And I'm Chelsea, today featuring my couch. I am sitting on my couch, living the best life.
Hey, comfy time. You get to be in the living room now.
hmm
You can yell as much as you want today. So
Hopefully, not loud enough to disrupt the dog, though. The last thing I need is him just popping off in the background.
I can feel that. But today we're going to be talking about week 4 and a little bit of 5 for next week. Week 4 it was interesting. We had some good stuff happen. We're going to get into some of that, like Cardinals and Rams, and Brady going back to his home and beating the Pats, and some free agency that just happened today as of Wednesday, October 6th. So let's get right into it. Let's actually go ahead and start with the free agency. So the big news today is that the Patriots released Stefan Gilmore, or they planned on releasing him, but Carolina actually ended up trading for him for a sixth round pick for Stefan Gilmore. Now, albeit he has been hurt and he is eligible apparently to come back on week 6, which is not too far away now. But apparently the contract negotiations weren't going so well. Stefan Gilmore signed a few years ago a 5-year deal for a lot of money, and he's been paid a lot, and he wants another big contract, and he believes he's worth that. And I think there were just some difficulties with that between the Patriots and him. So I think he was going to be released, and Carolina, though, just happened to pop in at the right time and trade a sixth rounder to get him here. So, Chelsea, what do you think immediately hearing that?
I mean, immediately hearing that, I think that is a huge win for the Panthers. I mean, albeit like you said earlier, Stefan Gilmore, a few years ago, Stefan Gilmore was the best cornerback in the league, arguably. Now, that was a few years ago. So, he's not the best cornerback. And I wouldn't even say that he's top five anymore, but he is definitely above average. And to be able to get an above average guy for a sixth round pick, I mean, that's a steal. I mean, and the Patriots, they couldn't even do anything about it because it was either release him and get nothing or trade him and get something. And the one deal that they got, they were forced to take if they wanted to get anything out of it. So, I mean, it really was a fortunate situation for the Panthers. I mean, they put the Patriots in a pickle and they were forced to either get something or get nothing. And they picked the something, and Carolina's coming out of the deal looking pretty solid on defense now. I mean, they recently traded for CJ Henderson as well, right? From the Jags, which was also just stupid. I don't know why the Jaguars traded CJ Henderson, who's literally one of the most promising, young, talented players on their defense. And they were just like, you know who we don't need? CJ Henderson. See ya. So, like, I don't understand that. But it's a real shame that the Panthers probably lost JC Horn for the year due to his broken foot. Because if they hadn't, that secondary looks nice. And that whole defense, I mean, outside of maybe one or two positions and some rotational guys, looks pretty nice. So, I mean, shout out to the Panthers for fleecing my least favorite team in the NFL. Gotta love when you see the Patriots get fleeced. It's a good feeling.
Well, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting with a guy like Gilmore's talent level. He was gone for sixth round pick. I think it's partly because I think they were willing to take that because they were just going to release him for nothing. Instead, they get a sixth
Right.
rounder out of it. Carolina thinking, well, I mean, it's kind of funny because if Stefan Gilmore had a choice of where he wanted to go, he could pick the Bucks, the Chiefs. He could go to the Rams. He could go to all these
The
probably different
Cardinals,
teams, Cardinals,
Ravens,
and
Colts.
so Carolina's thinking, you know what, we want to upgrade our defense and get him immediately. Stephon Gilmore now having no choice where to go except Carolina, being traded there, which is still not like a bad spot. At least he's not going to like the Jets. Sorry, any Jets fans out there, but I don't know if he'd be thrilled being traded there. Now, would the Patriots trade to their division rival? No, but I think you get what I'm saying here. He's not going to a really bad situation. He's going to a promising one, I would call it, especially on defense. Um, it'll make the offseason really interesting, assuming that he plays well. Actually, honestly, assume no matter how he plays, it'll be an interesting offseason. Because if he plays well throughout the rest of the year when he gets back and healthy, hopefully by week 6, let's say he plays like a Pro Bowl corner, then it's like, okay, does Carolina go and try to spend a bunch of money on him? But we were talking a little bit earlier, me and Chelsea. It's like 31-year-old corner. Is it worth spending big money on, especially long term? And it's debatable. We don't know. We'll have to see. But also what we said earlier is that how many good games out of a 6th round pick are you going to get? And assuming Stefan Gilmore plays well throughout the rest of the year, he will give us some good games for about what, 13 or 12 to 13 games. So if anything, this is a very low risk move, honestly, from
Yeah.
Scott Fitterer, the GM for the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a good move by Scott because he knows that, he's probably thinking, okay, if I go and do this and I trade a pick that usually doesn't produce much of anything, right? For a guy who used to be arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and he plays well and our defense plays well, that's reason for him to stay, right? And if he already knows he's going to be on a good, well rounded defense on an up and coming team, that's reason for him to stay and take less money, right? Rather than going and testing the free agency waters. And if none of the big teams want him, oh well. So, I mean, regardless, if no one wants him, I mean, Fitterer can just re-sign him. It's kind of tricky. It's going to be interesting to see how the preseason or the postseason goes because he is 31 and he is not in the meat of his career anymore, right? He had his best years with the Patriots, and that's not to say he can't have more really good years. But let's be honest with ourselves. The best of Stefan Gilmore is behind him, even though he's still a really good player. And just kind of knowing the character of NFL players that want to get paid, a lot of them, when they get older, think that they are still worth, 10, 12, $14 million contracts when they're over 30. And it's like the reality is that's just not true. Like you can still be very good, but if you suffer one more serious injury, you might not ever play again. And we might have washed all this money down the drain for nothing. I mean, you get one good year out of him, you sign him to I don't know, a 3-year, $30 million deal. And the second year he's there, he looks terrible. It's like, well, then you look stupid for signing someone who is inevitably going to regress to a big deal. So it'll be interesting. I think if they can keep Stefan Gilmore for a reasonable price after the season ends, then you do it. But if it's not reasonable, I personally would not spend money on that. I mean, you can go out and sign a younger guy who's better and in the prime of his career for the same amount of money that Gilmore is probably going to want. So I would do that personally, even though Gilmore is a veteran. But it'll be interesting to see because the Panthers defense is a very young defense. So it's probably good that they got some kind of veteran on there. But I don't foresee, unless the Panthers just do something stupid, which recently they have not been doing stupid things. So I would hope they would not do something stupid. If it was the Panthers of like 2 years ago before Scott Fitterer, they probably would do something stupid. But I don't really foresee them signing him to a big deal if he wants it. But let's just hope that they don't, because like I said, it would be really unfortunate if they did that and it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if the Panthers could, for them, if they could potentially franchise tag him. I don't believe Gilmore will take a franchise tag because it's
Yeah, if you
risky
can
for him.
retain him, retain him.
Yeah.
But if you can't, just move on. He's old.
Yeah. It's, yeah. But at least for this year, this is something that Scott Fitterer is just trying out. And, if let's say the Panthers do win a lot of games, let's say they make it to the playoffs or even like the second round of the playoffs by some way, somehow. Gilmore finds the culture. He finds that this team can win. Maybe he's willing to stay on it for a cheaper price because, I mean, look at what the Chiefs have been doing. Like and what Tampa's doing right now. They're not signing these all-stars for tons of money, but it's because they have a good culture and because they're winning and they can see themselves winning winning championships is why these guys are going there. And if Carolina can build something like that there, you could see all-stars being willing to play there for not as much money. So it'll
Yeah.
be
I
a really
mean,
interesting deal.
you could essentially argue that this is a 13-game tryout for Stefan Gilmore. Because, I mean, if he wants to get signed to another moderate to long deal, this is his tryout. If he's mediocre to average, he's not going to get re-signed. But if he's really good and he's Pro Bowl worthy, then there's definitely more of a chance. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it pans out for the long term. But at least for the short term, the Panthers definitely won that deal. I hope he goes off.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting thing to see progress. So let's go on to the next topic, though. We had a little bit of a surprise, at least in my eyes. I mean, I don't know what other people thought. I think mainly the score of this game was the surprise. The Cardinals, now still undefeated, beating the Rams 37-20. And it was honestly more by that until the Rams got a last second touchdown in garbage time. So looking at that, I mean, Kyler Murray, he didn't even have to have a monster game. They just outplayed them in almost every fashion, and the Rams just didn't have much of an answer for it. So, Chelsea, do you think the Cardinals are the team to beat in the NFC now?
I mean, I have thought all along that the Cardinals were going to be good, right? I mean, that whole division is good. I don't think you'll find a single person you know, who actually knows football that's going to say that any of those teams in that division are bad. That division is the toughest division in the league, unarguably. Um, it did surprise me. I was of the thought that the Rams were the best team in the league just because they have, two eventual Hall of Famers on their defense, and Matthew Stafford's looked really good. I still stand by the fact that I think they'd be even better if they hadn't lost Cam Akers to his season-ending injury. And I still foresee them going and addressing that eventually, maybe at the trade deadline. But the score definitely surprised me. Like, I knew the Cardinals were good, and I knew the Rams were good. I thought it was going to be like 35-32 or something, just a shootout. I mean, as good as the defenses are, I mean, both offenses have just been so efficient. It's just hard to argue against the defenses, even the best ones in the league, stopping them. But to see them get thumped, I mean, that was surprising. I think that there's definitely an argument that the Cardinals are the best team in the league, and no one can say that they've just played a bunch of cupcakes their first 4 games, because even if you argue that their first 3 games they played a bunch of cupcakes, the Rams are not cupcakes. The Rams are title contenders, and they clobbered them, absolutely destroyed them. I saw the score. I was like, wait, what? Like, there's no way that happened. So yeah, I was definitely surprised. I do think that the Cardinals are the team to beat in the NFC. I mean, everyone, you got the Packers, right? You got Aaron Rodgers. They're always going to be a threat. They're dealing with some injuries though on defense, right? And then, but they're still good, obviously. Then you got the Bucks, right? They just won last year. You have Tom Brady, you have everyone, but they are dealing with some injuries on their defensive side, specifically in their secondary, like more than one injury, which could really, really hurt them if they make it deep in the playoffs and have to play a team like the Cardinals that can drop 40 on the almost 40 on arguably the best defense in the league. So, I mean, yeah, I'd say the Cardinals might be the team to beat in the NFL currently, not even just the NFC. I mean, that was quite a showing. They made the Rams look mediocre, which is really hard to do because they are good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's surprising to me. I think it was JJ Watt. He was coming out, or he's in the game. He's like, this should surprise nobody. Like,
I
but
mean, he would say that,
yeah, I mean, hey, he's on the team. You got to be confident, If you're gonna go
right?
win games, you got to believe you can win them. So I don't have any problem with that. I think as a fan and a spectator, it makes sense. I mean, the Cardinals, have been trying to put themselves to be in a position to win the Super Bowl for a while now. Last year, I really think they had a disappointing season. I think that,
They
you know,
did. I
not
agree.
not making a playoff, not making the playoffs, and Kyler Murray starting out as good as he was and then ending the way he did. Now, part of it due to injury, still disappointing. So the Cardinals this year, I think this is their time to win. This is the part of their window. There are still some good teams out there in the NFC, and even if they make it to the Super Bowl, we got some good teams in the AFC. So we're gonna have to see, you know, can Kyler Murray keep up the way he's playing? Can the defense do games like this over and over? Or is it going to be a very inconsistent Cardinals team like last year, and they're going to have to almost scrape by to make the playoffs? Or I don't know what's going to go on. But all I know is that they're already on their way to almost there as far as tying their win record of last year.
Right.
So,
And I mean, I'm looking at the score breakdown right now. The Rams had the lead after the first quarter. It's not like
mm-hmm.
they played bad. They dropped 10 in the first quarter. And then the second quarter, the Cardinals come out and drop 17. And the Rams only score 3. And that was still the first half. And then, the score was closer in the second half. I mean, I know the last touchdown that the Rams scored was a garbage touchdown, but I mean, the Cardinals scored 13 and the Rams scored 7. So yeah, that's about a touchdown, but that doesn't even come close to 17-3. I mean, for some games, that's the score of the actual game. So they really went off in that second quarter, and that just kind of, eliminated the Rams running game, right? Made them one-dimensional, which made them easier to beat. You get dropped 17 points in one quarter, and you pretty much have to change your whole game plan, right? But no, it was really impressive. I mean, I think Kyler is an MVP candidate for sure. I also think Matthew Stafford is an MVP candidate. The Rams are not a bad team. Like, I would argue the Rams are one of the best teams, and they got clobbered. I mean, if this Cardinals team plays like this the whole year, I mean, it's going to be really, really hard to beat them. The Bucks, have defensive injury issues right now. The Chiefs are kind of playing down to their competition right now. I mean, they've turned it over some. Their defense has not looked good at all. They gave up way too many points to the Texans, who are one of the bottom feeders in the league. So, I mean, if there's any time for the Cardinals to stake their claim and say, hey, come after us, bring it on, I'd say it's now, because the other two teams in the Super Bowl last year are not looking to be their best currently. So it was very impressive to me. I mean, I still look at that score and I'm surprised.
Yeah, I can agree. So, but I don't know. We'll have to see, you know, what's gonna happen here. But let's go on to the next topic we got here. And a very historic game, one that will, I think, be looked back on for a very long time, is Tampa Bay versus the Patriots. Now, this game, I mean, this was historic. This is Tom Brady's probable last game in New England. We're gonna really hope he doesn't play another 8 years. One,
I
for
hope
his
so.
own health's sake, and
And
his
two, for my health's sake.
exactly for every other NFL's fans' health's sake. But it was really Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick in this game, and it was, while not very high scoring, partly due to some rain and, you know, the weather conditions, it was still it was an interesting battle. Everybody was
It was a
hyping it up.
chess match.
It really was. And I gotta say, shout out to Mac Jones. He played a solid game. Nothing spectacular. Like, he wasn't throwing out there for 4 TDs, 400 yards, but that's not a Patriots. That's just not how they do it. So I think he played well. He went toe to toe with Tom Brady. He kept up with him. Brady had several, and Brady played fairly well. I mean, there was one at the end there where he threw it to Antonio Brown. I really thought Tampa should have run the ball at the end to run the clock out, but he threw a pass to Antonio Brown and it just did not, or Brown dropped it. So I don't know. This game was interesting. Patriots losing by just barely a missed field goal. But Chelsea, what do you think about this game?
I mean, first of all, I think that the weather definitely contributed. when you're playing in a downpour for 4 hours. That's definitely going to contribute to your game plan. But I don't think that the weather was as big of a contributor as Bill Belichick was, right? I mean, no one can game plan for Tom Brady like Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick game planned masterfully, right? You got to give credit where credit is due. Tom Brady didn't even have a touchdown pass, right? Now, obviously, Tom Brady still carried this team to the win because someone has to drive the team down the field, right? But I mean, I think Bill Belichick really game planned about as good as he could have, in the circumstances. I mean, yeah, you gave up 19, but Tom Brady usually drops, 30 points during games. So to hold him under 20 is very impressive. I do think that Mac Jones played well. Like you said, he wasn't spectacular because that's just not what Patriots quarterbacks are. Patriots quarterbacks, aka Tom Brady, have always just been game managers until Tom Brady got to the point where he was the best in the league, right? And then Tom Brady wasn't a game manager at that point. He was Tom Brady. But when Tom Brady was a game manager and he wasn't the best in the league and he was, in the beginning of his career, it's just like what Mac Jones looks like, right? So it'll be interesting to see if Mac Jones also ascends to a different level like Tom Brady did and becomes more than a game manager. But I mean, it was a good game. I was torn, right? As a Colts fan, it's like, who would I cheer for? Tom Brady or the Patriots? That's just evil, like who am I supposed to cheer for? I will say that I ended up cheering for Tom Brady because I just have a disdain for the Patriots. And I can't cheer for them. I just can't. So also, Tom Brady is my starting quarterback in both of my fantasy leagues, so that may or may not have contributed. But I mean, this was a chess match. The game was muddy and messy and well calculated, and apparently, I think I read somewhere the second most viewed NFL game of all time. So
Really? That's
I believe
impressive, but
so. Let
not
me
really
verify my
surprising.
information.
Not, not really surprising. I mean, as far as regular season games go and all that stuff, because I mean, this is such a big one. But it was kind of funny because the Patriots fans obviously cheering Brady on when he comes out of the tunnel and all this stuff, and they're just cheering him on. He's having all this stuff, and then right when the game started, they booed him immediately, which I think is great
Which is so
because
Patriots.
I mean, I think it's fine because it's like, look, he's the opponent now. Like we had our nice hugs and all that, but now he's the opponent. So
Yeah, it's
eh,
not like he's the only thing that made your franchise relevant for 20 years or anything.
hey, him and Bill Belichick though, and I mean, honestly, it's funny because the Patriots really made their name at the beginning through their defense. Then as
That's
time went
true.
on, it's just Brady, or it was
That was
Brady
just a
doing it
salty
all.
Colts fan comment. I
That's fair.
realize it may not have been factually true. Also, to verify what I said earlier, according to TampaBay.com, NBC announced Monday that Tom Brady's return Sunday night to Gillette Stadium in the Bucks Patriots clash attracted approximately 28.5 million viewers, making it the most watched Sunday night football game since 2012 and the second most watched game since Sunday Night Football's debut in 2006. So there you go.
Impressive. Wow. Tom Brady brings people to watch. So that's what I got out of that.
Yep, it's going to be remembered both fondly and bitterly in the hearts of Patriots fans forever.
Exactly. But anyways, now that we've kind of gone through some of the games, I think we should talk about our game picks here. We've just got a few. We picked out a few interesting games, I thought. Just got three here. So let's go through them right now. We've got upcoming Colts at Ravens. So Chelsea, what do you think is going to happen here? I want to go ahead and ask who's taking this one? Who you got?
Are you asking my heart or my head?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's be realistic, right? The Colts are 1-3. because our first 5 games of the year are literally terrible. Like so bad. I did not expect to come out of this first 5 game stretch with a winning streak. I just didn't. So we're playing the Ravens, right? Who are a good team. Not the best team, but a good team, right? Could contend for a title. They have suffered some really bad injuries, right? They lost 3 to 4 running backs that were starting, but then naturally went and replaced them with other running backs that had started before in their career. So, really, what's the difference? They lost some key contributors on defense to serious injuries, right? So, it's not like this team has no holes. But the reality is, we're going to Baltimore on Monday Night Football, which does not make me feel that confident considering that the Colts had 6 starters out this past Sunday. One of those being Quentin Nelson, who got put on the IR for the next 3 weeks with a high ankle sprain. So that is tough. I do know that the backup for him, Chris Reed, is actually starting caliber and is solid. So it's still going to be okay. But we're going to need our people to get healthy. I mean, our right tackle, Braden Smith, has been out for a good amount of time, just dealing with a thumb injury and some other stuff. So if we get him back, I will feel much more confident, right? We had like 4 starters out on defense. We had 2 secondary starters, a defensive line starter, and a rotational guy out. We need all of them back if we want to win this game. I'd prefer to have T.Y. Hilton back, but unfortunately he can't come back yet, so that's sad. But I think that if the Colts have most of their starters healthy, and if they don't make any critical mistakes and play solid defense, that they can make this game a game, right? If those things do not happen, and the Colts have 2 offensive linemen out and 3 defensive starters, I don't see us winning this game. Just to be completely honest with you, Carson Wentz needs to play a clean game, right? Which, shout out to all of the people who still think that Carson Wentz is bad. You want to know a fun fact? Last year, through 4 games, Carson Wentz had thrown 7 interceptions. You know how many he has through 1 game or through 4 games this year? 1. And it was on a shovel pass because the receiver fell down. At me if you wish, but if you think that he is playing at the same caliber that he did last year, you have not been watching Colts football, which honestly, I don't blame you because most people don't watch us anyways. But so that is that. I do think that the Ravens will ultimately win this game. I just hope that the Colts give it a fight, right? I don't want, never fails. The Colts get primetime games I can actually watch, right? I'm so excited and I'm ready. And I know I'm going to be so tired the next day, but I don't care, right? I stay up and I watch the whole thing. And then inevitably we get blown out. Literally never fails. Sunday night, Thursday night, Monday night, never fails. The games are always awful. Like, can I just get one game on primetime where I'm not suffering for 4 hours? Seriously, that's all I want. I just don't want to be suffering on Sunday. That's basically what I'm saying. I think the Colts have a shot, but I think it's an outside shot, and I unfortunately don't see them winning. If they do want to win, they're going to have to go off in their run game, though. Like, Jonathan Taylor had a really good game against the Dolphins this week. He was averaging 6.5 yards a carry. He had like 15 carries, 102 yards or something, and a touchdown, right? So he needs to have like 25 carries and 130 yards and multiple touchdowns if the Colts want to win this game, because Carson Wentz, while he does look good, is still dealing with his ankles healing, and I'm not trying to have him run away from Justin Houston, who was actually on the Colts last year. That would be sad. But ultimately, I do have the Ravens in this one. But in my heart, I have the Colts, as always.
I like that you're trying to fight the bias. I respect it. I mean, I think that if you guys, so the Ravens being a heavy run team as they are, let's be real. I'm not saying they can't put up points, because of course they can. But if the Colts can find a way to, yes, while the Ravens may run a lot, if they can find a way to just limit those points, if they can find a way to just not give up big breakout plays or big passing plays like you saw with Hollywood Brown this week, where he wide open and dove for a catch and wide open touchdown, easy, well, not easy catch, obviously, but you know what I'm talking about. If you guys can make sure to halt the big plays and make sure, it takes them a lot of time to score, because that's the thing about a running team. When you run the ball a lot, it takes a lot of time off the clock. And if the Colts can force the Ravens to use tons of time on each drive and not give up big, fast plays and also keep up on offense, I think they have a decent shot, even if they don't have everyone back. It's going to be tough. Lamar has proven he can win close, big games. So we're going to have to see what happens. It seems like a lot of AFC teams are making Monday Night Football, or I don't know. It feels like the past couple, we've had the Raiders. I think the Raiders feels like they've got another national TV game, or they had one this past week, didn't they? So,
Yeah.
but
No, I mean, I think you have a point though. If the Colts, so this is my disclaimer, right? If the Colts can force the Ravens to throw the ball the vast majority of the game, we stand more of a chance of winning, right? If we can shut the Ravens down for the most part on the ground, maybe limit them to like 100 yards or less, right? Then they stand a shot. And that's not to say the Colts can't do that. The Colts are very capable of stopping the run game. So if they can do that, if they can, prevent Lamar from running all over the field, which I fully anticipate Darius Leonard just being a Lamar spy all game, like that being his only job, just standing there in the middle of the field and just watching him to make sure that he doesn't, take off for 60 yards, which that does contribute in our favor, right? Because since the Ravens lost all of their starting running backs, they're dealing with backups who they are proven backups, right? They were really good in the league once, but the reality is they are now practice squad and backup guys for a reason, because they are not top guys anymore. So if the Colts can limit the running game and force them to pass all game, I do believe that we can get some interceptions. It's just going to be, can we stop the run game? Because if you can't stop the Ravens run game, you're not going to win. That's how it is.
Yeah, I think this could be a good game, and I'm gonna go with the Ravens on this one, but I don't think
Yeah,
it
me
will
too.
be. I don't know. I think it could be closer than people might think. But next game we got Rams at Seahawks. So I'll go ahead and go first on this one. I think the Rams will have a bounce back game. I think the Seahawks are good offensively. They can do things, but I mean, I guess we'll have to see. They were able to win this past week, but I think overall the Rams are the better team. But it will be tough to play in Seattle. And we all know Russell Wilson is no joke. So when you're playing the Seahawks, you're not just going to cakewalk over them. They are no cakewalk, but I am still going to go with the Rams on this one. I think they have a bounce back game. I think their team overall from top to bottom is better. And yeah, I think they'll take this W. So what do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, I have the Rams in this one because I think they're going to be very angry about getting blown out by Kyler Murray, who is my age and is basically a baby in the NFL. I think that they are going to be angry about that. I foresee Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald playing very angrily, which is kind of scary for Russell Wilson. I think if the Rams are going to win this game, they're going to have to go toe to toe with the offense of the Seahawks, right? Because this year, the Seahawks defense has not been spectacular, right? It's had its issues. So if the Rams defense can force a couple of field goals and prevent the Seahawks from getting in the end zone, I do think that the Rams stand a lot better chance of winning this game. I think even if they don't do that, the Rams could probably still win in a shootout, but I don't think they want to have to resort to that. So it's going to come down to the defense. Matthew Stafford's going to have to carve up Seattle's defense, and the Rams are going to have to prevent a couple of touchdowns. If they can do that, I think that the Rams will win.
All right, big division rival game. We'll see how it goes. It could be a huge deal by the end of the year. So The next game we got Chiefs at Bills. Okay, a rematch of the AFC Championship of last year. Now, some context, the Chiefs just beating the Eagles this past week. They won by 12. So, nice or solid win. The Bills, though, a quick shout out to them, because if there were any Bills fans listening, they'll probably be upset because their team played excellent or played very well and beat the Texans 40-0.
Which is
When
not
does that
saying
happen?
much because the Texans are trash, but not shootouts. Leaving zeros on the board, shutouts are rare in the NFL, no matter how bad you are. So
Winning by like 10 in the NFL is hard enough. Like, it really is. Like, people don't understand, this isn't college football where there's a massive skill gap between these teams. But the so beating any team by 40 points and holding them to 0 in today's NFL,
is
that's tough.
crazy.
The
Yeah.
Bills are legit, and I think they're going to make a statement game. I think that their defense is a little bit better, even if their offense may not be. This is a tough one to pick, honestly. Like, can I pick against Patrick Mahomes playing the Bills in a big game like this? It's hard to, because the man, he plays well in prime time. So, but also the Bills have been playing well this whole year. They've been winning games convincingly. So I think right now the Bills are a little bit better. The Chiefs are struggling on defense, and that could be big in this game. So I'm gonna go with the Bills on this one. It's at Buffalo.
First of all, I want to apologize for not including the Bills in the list of arguable Super Bowl contenders earlier. They are Super Bowl contenders. The Bills are very good, right? See, I have the same problem as you, Chris. You pick against the Chiefs, right? I would say you can pick against the Chiefs defense. The offense, no. They have the best offense in the league. Everyone knows this. If they are playing a defense who can't stop them, they can drop 60 in a game if they really feel like it. They have the best offense in the league, in my opinion. I mean, at minimum, one of the top receivers and the top tight end and the top quarterback and a bunch of other guys that really aren't that bad. Patrick Mahomes, when he played the Texans last week, threw 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. The fact that he threw an interception at all is kind of surprising to me, considering they're the Texans, but it is what it is. I
You
don't
mean
know.
the Eagles? Sorry.
Yeah, the Eagles. Sorry, that's what I meant.
You
My
get
mistake. Sorry, everyone. I gotta go with the Bills. Their offense has been so good to start the year so far, for the most part, and the Chiefs defense has not been good to start the year so far. I mean, the Chiefs defense made the Chiefs Eagles game look competitive. Like, no hatred towards the Eagles, right? The Eagles have some good players on their team. They got Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, who are going to turn into a really good tandem. They have some other good pieces on their team. But the reality is they don't stack up against the Chiefs. And the game was way closer than it should have been because the Chiefs defense was not playing good. So if the Chiefs defense isn't playing good against the Eagles and they give that many points up, I can't really say that they're not going to give up that many against the Bills, because the Bills are leaps and bounds better on offense than the Eagles are.
and
So,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is definitely my fault for not recognizing this, but this is the second time they've shut out a team this year. They won against Miami back in September 35-0. And so that's my bad for not acknowledging that. It's odd. The Steelers beat them week 1 by 7. And then Buffalo just comes out, shuts out a team. Like, they lose their first game and they've pretty much blown every team out since that game. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I had forgotten about that too. I mean, 2 shutouts in one season by the same team. That's pretty that's pretty good. I mean, that does not happen often, right? But like I said, I'm not picking against the Chiefs team as a whole because you don't pick against the Chiefs offense, right? Even if they do turn it over once, they can still drop 60, right? So you don't pick against the offense. I'm picking against the Chiefs defense because honestly, they really haven't played great this year. And with all of the money in that defense and all of the big names and all of the people who are really talented, you would think that they would be playing better. Yet here we are. I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm going to go with the Bills. I think it'll be an offensive shootout, but I would pick the Bills defense stopping Patrick Mahomes at least once or twice over the Chiefs defense. I think Josh Allen is going to carve up the Chiefs secondary outside of Matthew, of course.
Yep. I think it's a fair pick at this point in the year. The Chiefs could turn it around and, get some things going. This is very early in the year, so things happen. But right now, the Bills look like the better team. They seem pretty hot for dropping their first game, and then the next 2 out of their next 3 wins being shutouts. And then honestly, the one they didn't shut out, Washington, they won 43-21. So that one wasn't really any closer. So, and
No,
it's
I
funny
remember
because,
the beginning of the year when people were like, uh-oh, the Bills aren't good. And everyone was like, the Steelers are back. And now you look at the teams and you're like, we were very inaccurate in our first week impressions of these teams because the Steelers do not look good.
I mean, we're just seeing that week 1 really means nothing because Green Bay gets shut out 38-0. They come back. They've won every single game since then, pretty convincingly.
Aaron Rodgers is done. Oh, wait, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, literally.
Never fails.
A week, man, fans are wonderful. We overreact so much. That's why we're fans, though, right? That's the whole purpose of being a fan, is to overreact.
That is so true. I honestly think that Colts fans are the most hot and cold fans in the league. Literally, Carson Wentz overthrew like 4 passes during the game, right? And they were acting like the world ended. His final line was like 22 for 30 with 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers. I was like, can you people chill out? Like, obviously, he shouldn't overthrow people, but if his worst problem is overthrowing 3 passes, I think we're going to be okay. I got on Reddit and I commented that because I was just sick and tired of reading people complaining, and it got 50 upvotes. So there.
Exactly. All right. Chelsea's a Reddit star. Now we know.
I do frequent the Colts Reddit, I will admit. I mean, my name starts with Colts Superfan, so I mean, I fit right in.
There you go. All right. Well, that's pretty much all we got for today. So, Chelsea, do you mind doing our outro here?
For sure. Hey, thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in. Hopefully Wednesday, next Wednesday, it'll be produced. This one will be out tomorrow on Thursday, but tune back in next Wednesday for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at _LC football _ Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just Launch Codes Football. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.